What's going on, ladies and gents? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com. But that's not all we got here. We got the Ketogenic Athlete Podcast in the building. It's a group combined effort.
Represent.
We got Danny Vega.
What's up?
Brian Williamson.
That's me.
And just to set the stage of this podcast, we're out in the middle of nowhere at my family farm. 3,000 acres in the middle of no man's land. We got a cabin. We got a river right outside the window. We got a fire. There was going, but it's not going down.
It's not going. We got a fire. We got a potential fire.
We got a potential fire.
Hold on. I want to interject one thing. This is not no man's land. This is two man's land and me. This is because there's two man's land here, and then there's me.
Says the guy who killed 2 squirrels for us yesterday.
Hey, you know what? They were looking at me sideways. I didn't like it. They gotta go. That's just the way.
Yeah.
You can't let that kind of thing go because you got a reputation to uphold.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's also what we ate. We had like a stipulation when we came out here. We've been out here since Thursday. It's like a 4-day trip. We couldn't eat anything unless we killed something.
Something I would like to point out is like I was not part of this stipulation. Like it was not. I was not.
He abided by it though.
I did.
He did.
I abode by it, but I didn't agree to it. So I'm just saying, like it was.
He was the first person to put food on the table.
Yeah,
2
he was.
squirrels.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, you were. The squirrels.
Yeah, Danny killed a whole bunch of wasps.
Yeah, I killed lots of
But
wasps.
they didn't have a lot of meat on them, so we couldn't really cook them.
Yeah. And then yesterday I killed a deer. We ate that last night.
Oh, that was so good, man.
It was good. And
really
then
good.
tonight Danny's gonna kill a deer.
Yes, that's what's gonna happen tonight.
Yes, but I won't be here because I have to leave early because some of us have jobs.
So what is the topic of this? What is the theme of this podcast? Do we have a theme? Themeless.
Like, this is what we've been trying to figure out all day. Is like, what are we going to talk about? And the truth is, we have no idea.
This is gonna be the ramble episode.
It's going to be a ramblecast for sure. But we just wanted to talk about what we've been, So one of the things that happens when you have like a guy's weekend hunting out in nature, like you start thinking of things.
Yeah.
Mostly how you could like disappear forever. And
There's been a lot of talk of that.
yeah, and so we're just going to share our thoughts on things that have been popping into our heads as we're sitting in a blind, freezing our blinds off. It's not been that cold, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's been surprisingly pretty warm actually.
Yesterday was ridiculously warm.
Yeah, it was like sweating warm.
It was. I mean, I was glistening. And I don't normally do that.
I'm blown away seriously by all the stuff you have here, like all the nature you have here. Brian saw a white horse.
Yeah.
Okay, so
This is a mystery horse. I'm not familiar with this horse.
So this morning I'm sitting in a tree stand, and I look out on the horizon, and I see this thing moving, and I pull up my rifle scope and I look, and I see like a tail flapping, and like, okay, it's either a cow or something. And it turns in the profile, it's a horse. So I texted Robert, like, hey, do you have a white horse on your property? And he didn't get the text because there's no signal out here because it's nature.
Which is awesome. That's another benefit.
Nature is the worst cell phone provider ever, by the way, in case you're wondering. So we get back to the cabin after we're done staring at grass for a couple of hours. And I said, hey, do you have a white horse? He's like, no. So apparently either I was hallucinating to the point where I took a picture of it. I mean, you can't really see a horse, but you can see there's something white there that if you go out there now, it's not there. Or it's an elaborate hoax that I'm just trying to pull off on these two guys, one of the two. But
or a unicorn.
this is what I'm saying. Like to me, it seems like it was a unicorn. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
This place is magical.
It is magical.
It really is magical, man.
Dude, you don't understand. Like when I first got here, like I knew it was going to be, a ranch or farm, whatever. Right back here that's a river. That's not like a dry creek bed. It's a river, like a raging river. Like we've killed 2 people in that river this weekend.
I wasn't here for that.
They were vagrants.
This is news to they were vagrants. The signs say don't trespass, so you take your risks.
That's right.
You know what we can start with, because me being the one that's never done any of this, realizing the importance of getting out in nature. Like I grew up, in Miami, and then if I did go out in nature, I went to the ocean or I even fished on lakes. But being out here in the middle of nowhere and actually hunting, I wish I could have said by this point that I killed something already. But at least I helped you process that first deer, and that was awesome because I've been wanting to do that for a long time.
Yeah, Danny was really excited about
skinning the deer.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why like Robert in his country boy wisdom, it's why they call it hunting, not killing. You know, because you don't know that you're going to see anything. So
yeah,
it's like gambling, only the payoff is more bloody.
That's right.
Than not.
But we still have another evening hunt.
Yeah.
So I've got faith in you. Danny. What about shooting the guns? That's pretty new to you too.
Yeah, I have 2 guns. One of them I got recently and I haven't even shot it, my shotgun. And I have my 9mm and I've only shot it twice. So
you've shot more guns in 2 days than you've shot your entire life?
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel like all of these things are things that either a man inherently wants, or at least if he doesn't inherently want to do these things, he needs to do them, And I feel like it's something that more people should try to do and get out, because you learn so much. Like this weekend for me has been mind-blowing. Like
I was telling these guys that I'm reading a book now. It's called Stranger in the Woods, and it's about the guy's name is Chris Knight, and he lived in Maine, and he was a hermit for 27 years in this small rural Maine community, and he basically was a burglar. He broke into houses like 40 times a year to steal whatever he needed for food. But one of the things that is like the most impressive is for 27 years he literally interacted with one person one time, and all he said was hi. That was for 27 years is the only thing he ever said to another human being. And for that entire period of time, he never had physical contact with another human being either. So it's like the most extreme example of isolation that we know of, right? That is not self-imposed isolation, rather. Yeah. And one of the things that this book is talking about is the benefits. So there's a double-edged sword, but the benefits of solitude, and because our modern society is such that we're constantly inundated with extrasensory perceptions, sight, sound, smells. Your brain can't choose to ignore those things. It has to process it.
Yeah.
Now, it can process it as noise and not pay attention to it, but it still has to spend energy processing it. And one of the things I found interesting is most studies show that something as simple as spending 15 minutes in silence, not necessarily in meditation, but in silence per day, can do tremendous amount of benefits for your cognitive health. So coming out in a place like this, where you can literally sit in a blind and just hear nothing but the wind rustling through the leaves, leaves falling.
It's a symphony. It's in the morning yesterday, mm-hmm. Rob or the day before yesterday. When Robert and I were together in the tree, which is an awesome tree. It's where Robert's gonna get married.
Not too Danny, like Danny and Robert sitting in a tree. That
was a different discussion entirely. That was an awkward discussion. We got it worked out.
Yeah. So we heard, because there's lots of times when we're just quiet, and when you hear the wildlife when the sun is down, and then the wildlife starts to change, and you start to hear different sounds when the sun comes up. And how would you ever be even able to hear any of that if you weren't out in nature,
right?
Quiet,
right? And so it's just, you have the opportunity. And so one of the things that we wanted to kind of talk about, because what gets overlooked, and Robert and Danny and I have talked about this quite a bit in the last few days, is one of the things that gets overlooked when we talk about athletic stuff is just the sheer, the outdoors stuff, right? Hunting, camping, hiking, things like that. And we've talked to hikers, we've talked to folks who do outdoor stuff, but you lose sight of the fact that aside from the athletic endeavor that's involved, you're connecting with nature as a human being, and that has restorative benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. So I'm a Southern boy, and I live in Texas now, and every hunter I know is pretty much laid back for the most part. I don't know very many people who hunt on a regular basis who are like really uptight.
That's true.
And it can't be a coincidence.
Well, and also, there are direct correlations between living in a city and chronic disease,
stress levels.
Yeah, and stress levels. Yeah. Like all those things, they can be quantified. And so, if you can't get out and live somewhere like that, at the very least, make an effort to try to get out there a few times a year, or find whatever's closest to you that's some sort of nature.
But at the same time, like of the three of us, Robert's got the most experience, so I want to hear what he has to say about it.
With regard to just being out here and disconnected.
Yeah, like what is your take on just connecting with nature, shutting everything else off? Like the benefits of it. Like,
it's therapy for me. Like I come out here. I don't know, it's kind of changed over the years because when I used to come out here like every other weekend. When I was not like when I was in school or when I didn't have the business that I do now. Now that I've got a business, it's harder to step away because I'm making that my priority. But when I do step away and come out here, it's like it resets my creative thinking so that when I do return back to work, I'm able to attack it with more intensity. But it's hard in the moment to justify leaving to come down here because you're so tunnel vision on what has to be done with the business. So, I mean, all three of us are pretty type A personalities, I would think.
Yeah.
Like we're very...
Maybe you are.
very, like, detail-oriented, like, focused on a task, and just, I don't know, very, very type A-like. So I'd be curious to hear y'all's take on when you come down here and you don't have any internet signal, you don't have any way to stay on top of clients, stay on top of email, stay on top of anything really. How do you justify that? How does that mental shift occur in your mind where you can be okay with stepping away from what is the day-to-day to what could improve the day-to-day?
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first.
So I find no difference between that and your athletic training. And what I mean is this, like you can't redline your athletic training constantly. You have to build rest into it. And even if the rest is just like taking Sundays off or whatever, you've got to do that because you can't sustain high levels of productivity without having some form of restoration, deload in there. It's just not going to happen. You look at high performers; they all will tell you that you've got to rest. You've got to build some sort of rest in because your body's going to make you do it at some point in time. Yeah. And the last thing you want is to be forced into resting because that usually means you're hurt or you're sick, and you don't want that. So my take on it is like you have to be intentional about stuff, right? So you look at this and you go, oh, I've got so much to do, but I've got this 4-day weekend thing planned. Instead of looking at it like that, you look at it like this is a rest that I'm going to take, and I'm going to be in the moment and I'm going to enjoy it. And therefore, when I get back, I will be in the moment of the work that I have to do, right? Yeah. So you have to be intentional about both sides, or prior to, like I know I need to get all of this stuff done before I go, and be in the moment and getting those things done. Because the last thing you want to do is be not in the moment prior to, and then when you get here, you're fretting about the stuff you didn't do and the stuff you had to do before, and there's no point. Your cortisol levels are shot. Like it's not restorative at all. So, and of course, this is all easier said than done, as far as I'm concerned. But that's how I'm trying to view it. Like I know I've got a lot of stuff to do, but I'm trying to take this as, I'm in this moment and I'm doing what I want to do and I'm doing the thing, whatever it is, and I'm just going to be there because I know the work's going to be there when I get back.
Yeah.
So, why not just enjoy now and then just attack when I get back? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think living more future-mindedly, proactively when you're in work mode zone, and then just forcing yourself to live in the moment 100% when you're down here and away from work is key. Again, harder to do than say, but
it helps when it helps when you have people who are willing to call you out too and say, quit worrying about that crap. Like, if you have someone who's saying, can we just enjoy the moment? Can we just why don't you be here? Or, why don't you leave? Because you're clearly not here.
Yeah.
It helps to have that, I think.
What about you, Danny?
So I feel like I've been the most affected by this, seriously, because I've been what I told myself before I got here was I did do the prep work. I did talk to my clients. I did finish as much as possible and let everybody know so that I can really disconnect. When we got here, my phone was in the room the whole time. The only reason why I would have wanted to take it was to take some pictures and stuff, but I'm like, you know what, Robert's got all that. But as soon as I got here, I completely disconnected, and I told myself that I wasn't even going to allow myself to try to think about creative stuff. But what ended up happening is that all these new ideas came into my mind. Like my mind was just so open to just a few different things. And it wasn't just new ideas or existing ideas and how they were going to be carried out. It was, when I get back, like you said, I'm going to be able to focus better on them. Now, the only challenge I foresee, like when we get back, is me dealing with wanting to be back here, you know, because I'm like, now I got a taste of this. And so now I'm like, now I got to figure out a way so that I can have peace of mind to schedule things like this, because it's not only it's the disconnecting from the work, it's the disconnecting from the training and knowing that, you know, you live a really healthy lifestyle and you work your butt off and you eat right. You know, it's okay if you're not, you know, having protein for a few days. We fasted for, you know, a day and a half. And it's okay if you're not completely on all the time. But the other thing is being together with you guys, you know, being together with like-minded people that just get it. That's a huge part of it for me. You know, like just being out here with you guys. Like, I'm a very social person, but then at the same time, I'm, yeah. Like the first day we hunted, I was talking like crazy with Robert, you know? And
I have to tell you, like, okay, so I have to, like, so as these two guys were together and I was off on my own spot. And I was thinking about this. Yeah. I was like, I can imagine, like watching Robert just get red from here, like continuously, as Danny's like, and I was just like, and just having Danny talk, like, but it worked out okay.
Yeah, because the second day, it wasn't even that he was giving me like anything. I just was like realizing that it's okay to just be out here and like just be more present. It's just I wasn't aware of how.
So that brings up a lot of stuff, right? We use words to prevent ourselves. Like I was talking before about a double-edged sword of being in solitude, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem is, studies have shown that people start to exhibit anxiety.
In silence
up to 50, like as quickly as 15 minutes of silence. Like people in our current contemporary
that's me,
society,
for sure. That's me. I feel like that could be me.
They don't want to be in silence because they don't want to be alone with their thoughts, right? Like they're afraid, like either they're afraid or they're just uncertain. And like being out here, the more you're out here, the more you realize that it's perfectly safe to be alone with your thoughts.
Just let your mind roam. I've never. I mean, even when I meditate, I'm in a dark room, but I know exactly where I am. I'm, you know, a few feet away from my refrigerator and my coffee and my, you know, and my two sons that are asleep in the room next door. It's a totally different thing. Like you can't simulate that. You have to get out there. And even you said, remember, I think it was yesterday or today, you were like, the only way this can really, really happen is if we have no service, you know, because if we do have service, we still get texts, we still get phone calls, emails still come up, and we tend to just... I always say we're like wired to shift towards automaticity because our brain doesn't want to. So our brain automatically goes to check the email, goes to check the.
And so Danny did a really good job of like when we got here, he put his phone away. I did not. I kept my phone with me.
But you have employees and I don't.
Well, but still, you know, they know I'm here. They know, you know. But the fact that I have no cell service, the fact that I couldn't do anything, is really what forced me to be in the moment. Because when I would wake up at 4:00 as I hear Danny shuffling about,
doing my morning routine,
I like the first thing I do is grab my phone because that's what I normally I grab my phone. What kind of emails came in? What do I have to do in the morning? And I would grab it and like, okay, well I don't have any because there's no service. So I'm like, all right, so literally I've got, okay, I would just sit and chill and meditate as I'm laying down in bed. You know, it's dark and it gives me a chance to just be in the moment, right? Because I didn't have any form of distraction whatsoever. And you'll notice that Robert's been silent this entire time, so he's really practicing it.
Yeah, well, Robert's really good at that. I noticed that he just kind of observes, and he's always like just learning from.
At first, I was convinced he was trying to plot how to kill us. Like he was just trying to figure out what's the best way to get rid of these guys.
No. For me, it's cool and rewarding to see people who this is not their norm come into it and then just observe how they react to it all.
City slickers.
That's me.
You know, like it's cool to expose Danny to like shooting a bunch of guns.
Yeah.
Danny likes exposing himself.
Yeah. But I tell you, you know, kind of what you were saying earlier about how y'all can justify coming down here and being like a reset. Like for me, it's I've come down here before with people that would, you know, aren't on the same page with me. Maybe they were at one point in my life, but like they'll come down here and they'll drink a whole bunch of beer and just, you know, have a lot of fun, but it's just like I don't feel like they're necessarily moving my needle closer to my goals in life. Whereas like I come down here with y'all, we're on the same page, we have similar ambitions and goals, we're all in the keto space, we're all trying to make an empire for ourselves, and then it's like I'm disconnected with y'all, but I feel like I'm still moving the needle forward with my business goals and whatnot. And I think that makes coming down here much easier for me.
Well, so so when you're in a situation like this, so hunters will know what I'm talking about, right? Like there's a lot of downtime, right? There's a lot of like you can find things to do. Like we spent a lot of time just driving around doing nothing,
which was awesome. Driving around me on the back of the
oh
mule.
my gosh,
that was one of my favorite things.
Robert's got a mule, a little 4-wheel like.
Not the 4-legged horse.
No, he doesn't have one. Mule. But he's got like a 4-wheel all-terrain vehicle that will apparently take down saplings that are even this big around. Totally different story. But so Danny's up on top, on the back, riding like he's a chariot, like he's a centurion going into battle, and Robert's doing everything he can to knock him down. Going like
from the first day, I was like, this is enough. Just me like. Just seeing the way the landscape changes in this whole huge farm and just like that was like this is completely in the moment. This is being in the moment.
It's funny because I was thinking to myself, all of the different video shots that could be taken from all the different things that we're doing. Like this could be like there were like picturesque tree-lined dirt road with leaves falling down. Like this would be a great video shot intro for something, you know. And I'm thinking about all the different creative stuff that's going on, but again, that's being in the moment because you're observing this. Like I'm trying to think of different ways.
You want to save it for posterity too. You want to go back to this moment.
But like at the same time, like we were talking about before with silence, Robert's just driving, you know, and he's not saying anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not awkward, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
You know, you're comfortable with someone when you can sit in silence with them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just the truth. Like I was telling these guys last night, like my wife and I can sit in the same room for hours and not talking. It's not because we're mad. It's not because we're upset. It's just that we're comfortable with each other. And, you know, it's not that there's no conversation taking place because when either one of us decides to engage or wants to, you know, say something, it's not met with anything other than, you know, like more conversation. But being able to sit in silence with another human being is powerful. It's tremendous. And it gives you that connection. But it also makes you appreciate the relationships you have. You know, like if you go forth and you realize that you can't sit in silence with someone, do you have the relationship that you really think you do? Right? And I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying, like, to me, that's a more powerful indicator of the friendship or whatever, the deeper state of relationship that you've got with someone, is being able to be alone with your thoughts and not have that be a problem. Some people are super, super sensitive about that kind of stuff. And those are the ones we threw in the river.
Yeah. Well, you know, the other thing about that is when you're together with people that get that and understand you and you just are really well connected with them, it makes you just be like, I have to get rid of anybody who's not this way. Because literally, I don't have time for my people that I want to be with. Right. So why would I ever want to spend time with these people when they're taking away from my precious time where I could be with these other people?
Right.
You know?
I agree.
And for me, another thing was being alone even is a different thing than sitting in silence with Robert or with you. I mean, being alone.
I wanted to ask you about that. So like the first 2 days you hunted, you with me. The first time we talked a lot. Second time I didn't talk near as much. Kind of let you be silent. And then the third time you hunted solo.
Yeah.
By yourself with the gun in the stand, nobody around. What was that like?
That was one of my favorite things. And this morning too, like yesterday. The main reason I can't hunt in certain areas on this farm is because I'm not good with the scope. You know, I'm like with that rifle, I'm not that accurate because I haven't shot it enough.
So we gave him a shotgun.
But yeah, so they gave me a shotgun, and so I had a shotgun in case I did see something, but I didn't. But you know, I knew that there was going to be a little bit of downtime before things picked up and there would be activity. So I had that first hour where I started listening to that Steven Ranella book that I told you guys about, The Buffalo, in Search of an American Icon. And that was just a great, I'm going to remember this trip and that book because it's kind of like goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. But then I put it away, and then it was like you lose complete track of time, you know, like, and for me, I'm always blown away when that happens. I told you guys that when I was with Dean alone and we would play for like 2 or 3 hours and I would look and I would be like, where'd the time go? That doesn't happen for me ever. So for me to lose track of time, that's another benefit.
That's giving, like, but that's willingly giving up control of something too.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you gotta kind of lean into that. You gotta be willing to do that.
Yeah, when you get a glimpse of it, I mean, maybe some people are alarmed.
When you're not ruled by the clock,
yeah,
it frees things up. You know,
yeah.
I mean, like so this morning, the only reason we cut the sitting out hunting short is because we had to record this because I've got to go. But if we didn't have to do this, we'd probably still be sitting out there.
Yeah.
Because there was literally nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's times yesterday when we were just walking through the woods, like we were looking for a little swamp area that...
We really weren't looking for anything. Robert was bored.
But I enjoyed that too. I'm just like blown away by the vastness of the woods. And this is why Bigfoot can totally exist. I'm telling you.
We had this conversation multiple times. It's proof.
You cannot like just this farm and 3,000 acres I get is a lot, but like how much area in the United States alone is either national park or state park, right, and you can just walk for miles.
Yeah, so the density of the woods here is nowhere close to the density of the Pacific Northwest, you know, northern or southwestern Canada versus Pacific Northwest of the United States.
And it's still, to me, very dense.
And this is dense, but it's nowhere near as dense as that area. And we're talking millions of acres there, right? Like here, we know there are deer. We saw deer run across the road, but as we were trudging through the woods, we saw no deer. Right? Yeah. Because it's really hard. I mean, animals are going to be protective. They're really skittish. They're going to be hiding.
Yeah, you see evidence of some of the boar wallowing in the mud, but they are all in their respective places, and they can be they have they're out here. This is their turf, so right, they know when something's coming from a mile away. They can smell you. They can see you. They can hear you. And so to me, that's another really cool thing because again, you probably have some sort of outdoor area around you, and you wouldn't even know that there's millions of animals around there. Like I saw a hawk this morning. It was beautiful. Possum. Brian saw the white horse.
I saw a unicorn.
Yeah, straight up unicorn. Like the deer, the squirrels. What was the other thing? Anything else we saw?
We saw a squirrel, possum, a unicorn.
We saw a rabbit this morning too.
You saw a rabbit?
Yeah, coming out. Yeah.
Nice.
Or going into the tree or coming out?
Going into the tree.
Yeah.
Hawk, I saw an egret, and then I saw deer, obviously. We haven't seen any pig yet, but we've seen sign of pig. So, yeah.
We saw an alligator.
Alligator. So, you haven't killed your deer yet, but last night... So, first of all, let me preface this with, most people watching this are keto. We eat a lot of meat on keto unless you're vegetarian. But the vast majority of y'all eat a lot of meat. There's a few of you that eat meat but then disagree with harvesting meat, which just is a strange connection with me. Strange. I don't understand that. But we have all been hunting.
I'm not judging you.
Yeah, we've all been hunting. We've all killed something here, even if it's just wasps. But he's gonna kill a deer, So, what I would have to assume that as a ketogenic individual who eats meat, you're okay with hunting. But probably the vast majority of y'all have not harvested your own meat. Killed that animal, cleaned that animal, eaten that animal. Danny's going to hopefully be able to experience that tonight. But last night, I killed the deer, and then within an hour of killing that deer, we had it hung up, clean, quartered, and then the tenderloins and backstrap, wrapped in bacon and on the grill, and eating it. So What was that like?
Well, first of all, I'm so happy to have participated in cleaning it and, taking the pelt off and butchering it because I've wanted to do that forever since I saw Steven Ranella do it. I tell people all the time that's that one episode of Meat Eater where he shows you how to do that, different ways to do it. There's a not only a precision and a skill that you build at doing that, but there's also a connection. And when you make that connection with your food, you start to think about the fact that it's absurd that we go to these stores. And I mean, I do it all the time, but we go to these stores where your food is made for you already and you have no connection to it. And that's why it's a little bit odd for me when people say that they're not okay with hunting, but they're okay with eating the meat, because, you know, you're getting the final product without any of the work, and you're saying that it's bad. Well, if those people don't do that work, where does your meat go? And this is a very important part of conservation. Like when we bought our hunting licenses, our out-of-state hunting licenses, we paid the conservation people. They're the people who are conserving the deer. So they're watching the population. They're making sure it doesn't get too big, it doesn't get too small. And so to me, like, and Brian said this too, you know, hunters tend to be the best conservationists. They are the most in touch with nature. They know what it's really like out there. As opposed
they also
to,
don't want to sully the source of the food. Like if you don't take care of the land, you don't take care of the environment, the animals are not going to thrive, and you're not going to have anything to hunt anymore. So it just makes sense.
That's why the Buffalo book is so interesting to me, and it's like this obsession and nostalgia that a lot of people have with like the Old West because of the buffalo being one of the main reasons. You know, millions and millions of them. You know that 1 to 3 million of them would die a year from drowning, because water's like the biggest enemy of a buffalo, and you wouldn't even be able to tell, because that's only 10% of the amount that are dying. That's 3 to 9% is they die from water. So
that's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Like you just pour some water on it and they die. And they
straight up, man. I mean, and so like we've seen what's happened in the past when we don't do this, when we don't appreciate the animal, and the people who appreciate that, I feel like the most, the animal is the people who are hunting it. You know, you can't appreciate something if you're not
willing to kill it.
and to take it one step further, again, I haven't checked my facts on all this stuff, so I'm probably not the best resource. But you look at, you know, the human population size is growing pretty substantially year after year after year. That's removing, you know, habitat for these animals. So it becomes even more of our responsibility to help manage the herds that are left, because we're the one taking their land in the first place.
Oh yeah.
So like to not manage that population herd and then to frown upon those that do, it just is complete ignorance to me, and I can't see eye to eye with it.
Yeah,
I have no judgment about it whatsoever. You guys do whatever you want. I'm still gonna try to kill deer.
Yep. So
kill deer,
Danny.
That's the name of that's like an enemy in a Marvel universe. Kill deer.
Yeah, I think it's a name of an insect too.
It's the name of an insect, also.
So Danny.
Yep.
You gonna kill deer tonight?
Yes, sir.
How's that gonna go for you?
Oh, remember I'm posting that quote. It's about perseverance, and it's more than.
Does it apply to you tonight?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because perseverance is more than just endurance. It's a certainty that what you're going after is gonna happen. So it's gonna happen tonight, you know. And
you've killed it before, right?
No, I've never killed a deer.
Oh, so you haven't killed a deer? Man, I wish you
really
could kill a deer before you left.
Oh wow.
No, I've shot at numerous ones, but I've never killed one.
Man, I wish you were here.
I made a mistake because one of them was wearing a bulletproof vest, and I hit it, but it was like haha, and it took off. But other than that, no. So I've never actually killed a deer. I've killed a bobcat. It's not the same thing.
Killed a bunch of squirrels this weekend.
I killed some squirrels.
Yeah, he did.
So to be honest with you, this is a normal hunting trip for me because I normally don't see any deer, which is why I've not had an opportunity to kill them. And the ones that I did see were way too far away from me to be able to hit. But I shot at them anyway, just on the off chance that they would get scared and die of a heart attack. You know, because it happens. It happens. It happened to my grandpa. So
yeah, it must be
I'm
true.
kidding. I don't actually know my grandpa.
So what words of wisdom can we impart upon the audience, apart from what we already have, with regard to?
Well, I don't know about wisdom.
Wisdom.
We can part words.
We can part words. So what are we gonna do going forward? I think we need to have like an annual trip at least.
Dude, listen.
You know.
At least to me, like You tell
you
tell
guys
me
should see
when.
the look in Danny's eye right now, and he's looking at Robert like, "Don't play with me."
Yeah, like
you better not be saying annual trip and not
just
mean
know that whenever you invite me out here, I'm coming out here, man. This place is amazing.
I'll have to check my calendar. I don't know. We'll see.
This is a pretty good haul for you. You had to fly in Little Rock.
Yeah.
That's not too bad of a flight, though. It's like, what, 2 hours?
Well, I had to fly to Charlotte and then to Little Rock. So the whole trip for me on Wednesday was 2:07 p.m. and I got here at 7:14. So 8:14 my time. So about 6 hours, but still not too bad.
Can you fly into Austin from Tampa directly?
I'm sure I can.
And then y'all both just rendezvous up here?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
I
a
can do that
longer
too.
trip for you though. That doesn't make sense. Never mind.
Yeah, because then that would be 9 hours.
I drove, and it takes about 6 hours to get here. So I mean, it's a pretty easy trip depending on the time of day. Going through Dallas during rush hour does not sound appealing to me.
I feel like it would be worthwhile to have like at least an annual trip where we reconvene here, get out of our norm, talk about the year's productivity thus far, what we're going to do going forward, and just disconnect from the day to day.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think that makes sense.
I want to talk about the fact that so last night Danny and I were talking about Marvel movies and DC movies, and I felt bad because Robert doesn't own a television and doesn't watch Netflix or anything, so he was just like not able to participate in the conversation, and I felt bad because I was like, oh, he's working all the time, and yet Danny and I are finding time to like goof off to watch stuff. So
I was practicing the whole silence thing last night, you know.
But I felt unproductive. As
I totally did too.
As we're discussing this, I'm like,
what
wow.
have I been doing with my life?
Yeah, I'm like, I've watched way too much stuff, and Robert's like, I have no idea what any of that is, and like, that's it. So I just want to say thanks for making me feel.
And the best part about it too is that Robert's like, okay, if you had to recommend one out of all of those, like basically, okay, fine, I'll watch one. But if you had to recommend one, which would it be?
I'll watch one next year.
Yeah, before our next annual
Did
meetup
we end
here.
Did we end up at Thor Ragnarok?
No, we did not.
You wanted Dark Knight.
No.
But he saw Dark Knight.
So okay, he asked one Avengers movie.
Oh yeah, you picked Civil War.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, it'd be Captain America: Civil War. But the problem is you got to watch previous stuff to really understand it.
Yeah.
You picked Thor Ragnarok, which is kind of a standalone.
It can stand on its own.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like that's a turning point in the writing style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was the most comedic of them. It's definitely funny. Korg is my favorite character in that movie. He's great.
Guardians of the Galaxy would be another good one that can stand on its own and just
the first one.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll say that my takeaway is that I don't want this to only be geared towards guys, but I can only understand men because I'm a man. I would say that you need to find a small, essential tribe of brothers that you can be with and trust. People that that you can just be completely open with, and find a place where you can put yourself in a position to be completely open and disconnect. And then I'm sure this applies for women as well, but I don't know what that would look like. I don't exactly think it would be in the outdoors, although I do think women would totally benefit from it. It's a different...
Well, a connection with nature is connection with nature, and I think it's a human... It's sort of a human draw, regardless. But it would be played out differently.
Even though I will say that when I was in Wisconsin a few years ago...
No, that's not to say that there's not a lot of women hunters and like all that, because there are. There
totally are. Well, that's what I was saying.
Right.
I was a few years ago. I was in Wisconsin training, like some surgical training that I was doing, and it was right around like late October, and Black Friday was coming up, and all the nurses that were there. We're talking about northern Wisconsin. A lot of them have a house in the Upper Peninsula somewhere, and they were all excited about Black Friday, and it wasn't because of the shopping. It was because they were going to go hunting and fishing on Black Friday.
Right, that's the hunting season. Yeah,
that to me is like that's awesome.
Right, and that's just to me that's just clear indication of like a natural calling to nature.
Yeah.
When you grow up in an urban environment, that gets squashed a bit.
Well, it's kind of like you look back at human civilization before, current modern day and age where everything's handed to us basically on a silver platter.
Yep.
And like this wasn't optional. Like you fished, you hunted to survive, and in that same time, like there was battles, there was wars, like different groups were going against each other for life, and we have that nowadays to an extent, but it doesn't touch most people's life. Most people can sit at home, turn on their TV show. I mean, you can order your food from a button now. I mean, it's just crazy. So like you are so disconnected from point A to point B of how things are actually done. Whereas out here, it's like you have to make a fire to be warm. You have to kill your food to eat. I mean, it's like you're forced into that reality of what is actual. So, in the day and age we're in, we have to like self-impose these hardships, or we just go without these hardships. Yeah. That's why I train. That's why I like do bodybuilding shows, because it forces me to go into that hardship. And like being out here is the same thing in a different light. Like that primitive, just this is what you have to do to make this work and be comfortable. And I think anybody can benefit from that.
We did say that we did mention that we weren't the stipulation. Yeah, I think you mentioned it about we weren't going to eat unless we killed something. Yeah. And so when Brian killed the first squirrel, we got to eat like some squirrel legs. Yeah. And then we were able to break out because Robert brought some keto bricks. So that we could keep our ratios.
Yeah, we wanted our fat ratios good because the deer and the squirrel are super lean. So we couldn't eat the keto brick until we ate something else.
Like, we were both like just biting it. It tasted really good though. But and so that's another thing when you start to think about that. I'm with you guys who are more experienced, and so I'm benefiting from your experience. But even so, being out here now, I'm like I can totally live in a place like this. And like Brian was saying this morning, I told him I could see myself living off of venison and keto bricks, just you have the shelter, which is the cabin. It's perfect. It works great. Running water, electricity. And you have your food out there. And you basically, you harvest a deer. I mean, you're good for like a month maybe. And if you're hunting like a few days a week, you straight up, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, there's fish. We can go fishing.
Yeah. We could have gone fishing. I was about to fish.
Yeah. We were literally probably as close as you can get to fishing. And then something happened.
Brian got sniped by a tree branch, by a root. We were launching.
So hold on. I want to make sure we set this up correctly. So we go into the forest or into the woods for about 3 hours. So we're driving the mule. We're pulling a boat, an aluminum boat, for about 3 hours, it seems like. And we get to this just cliff. And it's just like straight up 90-degree face cliff. Robert stops the mule. He's like, "Yep, this is the launch point for the boat." I'm like, what? Like how is this the launch point? He goes, "Well, we'll figure it out." So
we'll play it by ear.
Yeah, play it by ear. Oh,
that's joke. Great. Anyway, so get the boat off the trailer, and it's not too heavy, but it's literally just going down this incline that's like 80 degrees, just almost straight down. Danny's at the bow of the boat, making sure it doesn't just slide into the dirt and get ripped in half or whatever. So I'm trying to hold the boat to keep it from like just falling on him. And as I'm sliding down, a root got uncovered and it snagged my foot, and I couldn't pick my foot up because all my weight was on it. So it ended up pushing me over. So I didn't want to like slam into the boat. So I tried to jump over it. I jumped over it. Somehow I managed to hit the one fishing pole that we had, and snapped it in half as I was trying to not die, and that was basically our fishing trip. Like you guys were gonna go hunting the squirrel, and I was gonna go fish. And we were gonna reconvene later. Basically, I ruined it. And Robert hasn't really talked to me since then because apparently I was his lucky fishing pole.
I thought it was okay. Because I thought it was just like somehow it unhooked because it was like
maybe, a tent pole thing.
Yeah, that it would just snap back together. But no, it was snapped in half.
Yeah, it's still snapped in half.
At that point, we should just like cut down a piece of bamboo and just like.
I was so gonna do that. I was like looking for a piece of wood that we could just.
I was seriously considering like just using the bottom half with the. With the reel. I should have at least tried to see like how I could cast with that, but whatever.
Yeah, so basically the fish are alive today because of a tree root.
But I thought it was I still thought it was I wouldn't have experienced, like I felt like we were like like gangsters, like doing like drive-bys. Like we would see the squirrels and we would like, and pull up on them like do.
So all right.
That's not how we typically hunt squirrel, by the way.
This is the best part, right? Like that, I've never hunted squirrel like that, right? So Robert is like, we're going out to this boat launch, right? And just out of nowhere, Robert's like, squirrel! Puts on the brake to this thing. He's like, we're all jumping out like tactical team. Guns are blazing into
Danny's got the shotgun while he's riding on top of the mule, looking over the hood of the
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I promise you, it had to be at least 5 or 6 times where I was like, if we were in a post-apocalyptic world and this is what we would do, we would go hunt and be quick with it and then get back home and make sure that we're back to safety. Because zombies, of course. Right. It was always zombies in my mind.
So we're going along, and we do this about 5 or 6 times. This is both pre and post boat incident. And Robert turns to me as we're driving, and he's kind of like laughing to himself. He goes, "This is the most redneck squirrel hunt I've ever been on," and that's saying something because he grew up in Arkansas. So
yeah, it's not how it typically goes squirrel hunting, but it worked. We got some squirrels.
That's what I was like. I was hoping this was not normal. Like just seems very strange to me. But we got 2 squirrels, you know, and we ended up trudging through a bunch of swamps too. During the day,
and we didn't. At the end of the day, we didn't even notice. So we had walked like 4.5 miles or something.
Of all the things that we've done, this is the most controversial thing that's happened to this point. I'll give you just like the Reader's Digest version of the conversation. Danny's got is it an Apple Watch?
Or is it a
Garmin Fitbit?
Garmin, yeah, it's a Garmin.
So it's a Garmin thing that monitors his steps and tells him how far he's gone. And he says at the end of the day yesterday, we walked 5.4 miles today. And immediately, Robert's like, no, we didn't. We did not. There's no way we did. It almost came to fisticuffs. That's how bad it was. I mean,
it could have been.
Robert insisted it was 5.1, and there's not a single bit more. And Danny's like, I'm telling you, it's 5.4, and that my suggestion, because I'm always the peacemaker. Let's meet in the middle, and it's 5.25. Let's just call it that. And they were like, no, it's gonna be this. So
it is kind of crazy. Like you think, like tying this all back into athleticism.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that.
If you were living out here long term. And like the stuff you'd have to do in order to just make ends meet, survive, and have food on the table. I mean, you'd be pretty physically fit. You'd have to be pretty physically fit. You know, we'd be splitting firewood, we'd be hunting, we'd be tracking deer through the woods. And a country mile is not the same as a mile across the track. You know.
Yeah, it's rugged terrain, and we didn't even talk about the first night when we thought we were gonna eat that first night.
Oh,
yeah. You shot that doe.
Robert shot a deer. And then he made a veteran mistake. Not even a rookie
Oh, wait.
mistake.
You said ahead of time the worst thing that could happen is if we shoot something right before the sun goes down and then we're tracking it at night.
Right. We got to find it at night.
And that happened.
And that's exactly what happened. So, like, don't tell Robert I said this, but, not to call him out or anything, but he made a veteran mistake because he got overconfident, right? Because he's killed, 7,000 deer?
I've killed quite a few deer, for sure.
So... boom, kills the deer, or shoots the deer, rather.
I hear it go down. It's like...
Yeah, he's hunting with me. The deer goes down, belly up, white belly. I look back in the scope.
Back on it, yeah.
Still laying there.
On the ground, right?
No movement. I'm like, okay, that's one. Let's look for the next one.
And
so
2
I put
seconds later, Brian... it wasn't that much
right.
after when Brian came with the mule back. Mm-hmm. And we're like, let's go get it.
Right, so I come back with the mule because I hear the gunshot. It's toward the end of the day. I'm like, all right, well, we got a deer, right?
We thought we were all going to eat.
Right. So I take the mule and I drive over. They get down off the tree and we go looking for the deer. And the sun is quickly, going down past the horizon. We can't find blood. We can't find the deer. And we never found it. Like the following day, we found some blood trail. But it literally went cold. Like it just stopped in the middle of the field. So
yeah, that was crazy.
So one of 3 things. This is my hypothesis. One of 3 things, and I don't know which one I think is the right one. But it's either a bear came out and got it while they weren't looking, Bigfoot came out and got it.
That's mine. That's what I'm going with.
Or it's aliens, and I don't think aliens exist. So I'm going to go with the Bigfoot thing.
Must be.
But the blood trail ran cold. Like
it stopped. Like we found
in the daylight the next morning.
Yeah. So
a lot of people will listen to this podcast, will watch this YouTube video, and automatically just hate me because I didn't get a good shot on a deer, and the deer's suffering, and I've wasted all this meat.
Trust me, we tried our hardest.
But we tried our hardest, and this is just like a reality of hunting. Like, sometimes you hunt, sometimes you lose. You know, that's just how it works, and you feel bad about it. You know, like, I respect the animal as much as anybody, but inevitably, if you hunt long enough, you're going to miss your game at some point, and it's unfortunate, but it happens.
We put out a hit on the deer to make sure that anyone who, like, any of the other deer who meet it, like, will end it, you know, to follow up what we couldn't do.
And we're gonna kill those deer too.
Well, when they come to collect the reward, they don't know this. When they come to collect the reward, they're goners too. So
yeah. I do have 2 more tags to fill, and you've got 2 tags to fill, and you've got 2 tags to fill, but you're about to leave. So unless you see one on the way out,
I'll hit it with my truck.
Yeah. It'll be good.
Using a Dodge or a Ram truck is probably the best bet for me in terms of hunting a deer. It's going to be the...
Then you could just ram the deer.
Yeah, boom. Just, okay, let's get it now.
There you go.
Man, just being out here, it's just, you know, every time I came out, like whether it was like at night to get something from the van or anything, you just see how alive this place is. You know, the wind's always rustling, the trees are always cracking, there's always activity going on, and you just realize that it doesn't care about you, and it's not going to care about you after you die for thousands of years.
It's funny that you say that, because like in the book, the Stranger in the Woods book that I'm reading, one of the things that they talk about is almost every example of someone who's experienced self-imposed long-term solitude says the same exact thing.
Wow.
Says that after a point you realize that it's not that you're insignificant, it's that you're just part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And you're not, like, you don't consider yourself, there's no longer a psychological I. It's just like, now I'm just part of nature.
And I think that's very beneficial.
It's pretty impressive.
You know, kind of like take this one step further, and like not in a morbid way, hopefully, but like we were talking about the beginnings of this farm, and a lot of these fields here was cleared by people way back in the day, and there's a graveyard of some of these people in the woods way out there. There's no tombstone, there's no marking. These people are dead, they're buried there hundreds of years ago, and nature just grown up into them and around them.
And Marcus Aurelius talks about that, like, you know, people who wanna be important, and they want to be, you know, significant for some reason, and they die just like the rest of us, and they decompose just like the rest of us. Doesn't matter if it's Alexander the Great or a peasant, you know, we're all gonna go back to the same place, and
it makes life seem more simpler, and like in a good way almost. Like it's like it is what it is. You make the most of it, and then you're dead, and that's it. You know.
Yeah.
This is what I say. We're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So I mean, what does it matter? Like, you could be Alexander the Great or Alexander the meh. Whatever. We're all gonna end up in the same place.
I think it definitely helps clean your motivations up a little bit, and see ways that you can, instead of focusing on
petty things.
Yeah.
Well, here's the big test, right? Is what happens when you get back. When you get back to your regular life on Wednesday. Like, what happens after you've been back in your regular life for a couple days? Like, do you stay with this idea of like what you've experienced out here, or do you allow life there, you know, in business life, to sweep you back into?
I think that's why I feel like you need to plan these things out so that
you have to refresh your mind.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you have to do this stuff on a recurring basis. Like, nothing is good once and done. You have to kind of constantly be reminded of it, I think, you know.
Oh, that's another thing that we were talking about, because I don't hunt as frequently as Robert, so I'm not as good at it as Robert is. And Danny was talking about the fact that he, you know, this is kind of his first time ever, and he felt kind of bad for not having the experience. And there's you won't know this, but Adventure Time.
Oh yeah, it's a funny show.
It's a great show. One of the things that really resonated with me is there's a saying that they say is sucking at something is the first step to being good at something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you have to go through that in order to be able to be proficient, to be good at it. And if you realize that you're terrible at something, and you want to be not terrible at it, you then make a plan to get better at it. You know, if you hit the gym for the first time and you can't lift a lot of weight, or you don't like the way you look, make a plan to improve it, and then give yourself the time, space, and discipline that it needs to do it. If you want to be a better hunter, you've got to get better with your utensils, with your tools, right? So you've got to plan. You don't necessarily have to spend a tremendous amount of money going to places to hunt, but you can certainly practice shooting your gun to get better at longer distance targets, that kind of thing. So there's all kinds of ways that you can improve. It's just a matter of whether you want to or not.
And I think Jordan Peterson talks about, some quote of his, he says that every hero must start as a buffoon or something.
Yeah.
And it's not only the fact that it's a reality of life, but it's also, you have to realize that you're a buffoon and not think that you know more than you know.
Right.
You have to be open to the learning experience in anything that you do.
I think I would take it one step further. You have to realize that you're a buffoon right now.
Yeah.
That you're not. If you decide to not be that, moving forward,
that's powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
You have that control.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, we're all gonna die. So what does it matter?
It is funny. Like I was just raised in this kind of lifestyle. Like I've always had this farm, and I've always hunted. I've always, worked on the farm. So it's funny that some of the things that I take for granted that I just know how to do, and I don't even think to like teach. Like the other day we were shooting cans or something.
Oh my gosh, dude! Yeah, think about that. How crazy that is that I never knew that.
Danny was shooting right with a 22. He was shooting the 22, and he was shooting right of the target. The groupings was good, but it was always hitting right. And I'm like, okay, why is he hitting right? And it's because he was only looking at the front sight. He wasn't lining up the front sight with the mid sight, and his cheek wasn't on the stock of the gun. Like, nothing was lined up. So I'm like, okay, do this. And, like, then he nailed it first time,
That was just just a lack of familiarity. And people, I've experienced that too when people say, like what we do with our family, how we just take things for granted because we've done them for so long. People are like, that's not normal, like you take it for granted, but those little idiosyncronicities that you do that are part of your routine, that's where the magic is. That's where the value is.
I'm viewing it as even more than that, is if you're willing as an individual who is wanting to, I don't want to say improve, but expand their skill sets, right? No matter what it is, if you're willing to go through the pain. So, for example, like Danny, shooting a gun, not a lot of experience, but is willing to get out there and shoot and miss and have someone tell him and then fix it and do it again and then get better at it, right? So I bought a motorcycle. I've never owned a motorcycle before, and it's scary as all get out when you first ride a motorcycle. But I'm like, I'm gonna do this, right? So it's that being willing to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, possibly dangerous position.
That's actually the dangerous part. I think is like very important. Like when I was out there with you guys on the back of that mule, like I didn't even tell you, I got hit in the ribs once. I got hit in the eye once. And like that danger component.
You love it.
Yeah, you love it. You love that there's danger to it. Like that's, obviously it's a hormonal thing. Like we get the adrenaline rush and everything, but I think that's important.
Well, yes, and it's important because it's significant in that you have to be willing to endure all of those discomforts in order to grow. But I mean, it's not just necessarily physical pain, right? Like that adrenaline rush is something that it's a character building thing, right? Like, so it's not that you're seeking the adrenaline rush. It's that you're willing to put yourself through discomfort to prove to yourself that you can endure and get through things. I mean, it's just like lifting heavy. Like, you won't find a single person who says that lifting heavy is easy. That's literally why it's called lifting heavy. It's painful. I was talking to the guy who owns the gym that I just started going to, and I wasn't talking. I was listening to him have a conversation with one of his clients, and he was talking about bench pressing a really heavy weight, and he was explaining and describing the sensation of like the feeling like your muscles are going to rip off the bone, like having it compress your chest, and then like all that stuff. And his statement was, I don't want to do that anymore. Like in his youth, that was he was okay with it. But because he's experienced it, because he's gone through it, and he did it for years and years and years, he doesn't have to anymore. I mean, he knows he could if he had to, right? But he can now choose not to do it. So it in dealing with all these different things, these new experiences, it makes you stronger, not just physically, but emotionally, character-wise. It makes you be able to endure. So I wanted to talk about, I think that's the last thing that we wanted to talk about, because I don't know if you're good on time or not.
No. I was, go ahead. I was going to follow up with what you were about to say.
Go ahead. I'll remember my thing.
And just kind of to hinge off of that, talking about doing things outside your comfort zone. I'm actually listening to a book right now, and they're talking about people with the growth mindset versus people with like just this inherited, like this is what
scarcity.
Their maximum capability is. At birth, like this is their destiny at birth. They can't break through to another level of enlightenment or anything. That's just what they feel like they have, and that's just who they are.
What's the name of the book?
Mindset.
Oh, is it the Carol Dweck one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't read that yet, and I've been told about that for years.
I like the name Dweck.
Dweck. It's a good name. But there are people out there that, like, if they don't know how to shoot a gun, they just assume that they'll never be able to shoot a gun. They don't think that they can learn to do things. That, like, the learned behaviors is obsolete to them. But when you have this mentality of, okay, I suck at this, I'm going to be okay with sucking at it. I'm going to laugh at myself and my own mistakes before anybody else does. And that way nobody else, what power do they hold over me? Then you just learn, you get better, and you have fun with it. Then you, like, can literally accomplish anything in life.
And the more you do it, and it doesn't matter what you do it in, like what field, what sport, what business, it transfers to everything else. And you start to build that confidence. Like when you first do that hard workout that is like a burner to your lungs, you feel like, holy crap, I might die at the gym. Like my heart might explode at the gym. And then you start to like just slowly maybe I didn't die, and I'm going to push myself a little bit further. And then you go a little bit further and a little bit further. And there's so much growth in that, man.
Well, and so what I was going to add to my own comment, because I'm really smart, is that there's a more subtle aspect to it too. And what I mean is this. So when you spend 3 days and the only people that you're around are your friends, but you've never spent extended periods of time with them, right? So there's a risk there too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you'll see people walking through the house dressed in only a towel, right?
By the way, I look really good in just a towel, y'all.
He really does. Yeah. He really does. I do not.
All right. Anyways, back to just me in a towel.
So back to me in a towel. Everyone's like, pictures or it didn't happen, right? So anyway, my point is you've got to be willing to put yourself in that kind of discomfort too. Like, so I've got a lot of quirks, right? But I've got to be willing to be okay with those quirks to be like, and I've got to trust these guys aren't going to be like, I don't like you anymore.
That's such a good point.
Of all your quirks. Like we were out, eating, right? And they were like, we just cooked all this food, eat. And I was like, I don't like hot food. And they were like, what?
At first I laughed at it. I thought it was just a joke.
Right. No, I was like, I don't like eating hot food. I like for my food to be cold, like warm room temperature. I just don't like eating hot food. And this comes from a couple of different things, but mostly psychological trauma from my childhood. But the thing is, I'm willing to be like, yeah, I don't like it, and trust that these guys are going to be like, okay, that's just a thing. Yeah. Not like I can't hang out with you anymore.
Well, that's what makes us all like, and that's why like it's so important to be authentic and to be, your authentic self, because the world needs you just as you are, and to be someone else that you're not, obviously it messes you up, but it's like it makes the world such a bland, vanilla place.
Yeah, because if everyone's trying to pretend that there's someone that they're not, there is no real person. Yeah. Like, so what I'm saying is it's more than just like embracing the danger. You've got to be able to put yourself in a situation where you're willing to risk, exposing yourself, not the way these guys did, but sort of like, this is how I am, like, because I don't care about people's opinions. It doesn't matter. So like I would like be like, all right, I'm going to bed, and I would like come in and they're like, oh, so you're really going to bed? Like, yeah, I'm going to bed. And like they were like, cool, you know, and you got to trust that your peers, your friends are going to be like okay with it, especially the first time. There's always that weird like, do I do this or do I pretend like I don't? Like,
no judgment down here.
Oh, but what I will say that I like, and we talked about this when, before we were recording at some point this weekend, we talked about the fact that when you're around, I think it might have just been you and me, but we might have revisited it when we were all by the fire, is that when you are around people who are, you know, leaders such as yourself, like yourself, and I consider myself a leader, and the same thing with you guys. So when you're around people like that, when things get hard, you're of course you have your own inherent work ethic and grit and stuff, but then when there's people around you, when things get hard, you embrace it more, knowing that they're going through it just like you, and they like, let's hold out, let's work a little bit harder, let's push a little bit harder.
Yeah, and I think given your history, like, because you played football throughout high school, you know, in college, and I thought about this, like, so you were forced to be intimate around.
The locker room was, I mean, I don't want to say this without sounding like, you know, I love being with the boys, but, you know, like, that was a lot of fun. Like,
but that's exactly it, right? Because you have you're literally stripped. And you just have no choice but to be honest. Because you get a bunch of guys around, they're going to call you out if you're not. You know, they're going to, you know, identify that sort of thing. So, I mean, that kind of stuff is tremendously important. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it, though. You know?
You end up, if you do cover up, like, in that situation, you end up drawing more attention to yourself, because like, you know, hey, we're all here the same as you. You understand? Like,
all of our butts are hanging out in the wind right now.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
Man, this podcast got weird.
As weird as never mind.
I feel like we should conclude this with gunshots.
Before it gets too weird.
Too weird. But we need to conclude with gunshots.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Inside the house?
No.
Oh.
I thought we just walk out the back porch and shoot the river.
Shoot the river.
I'm
Danny,
all about that.
You got the pistol?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do this.
Let's go.
And then just hold this like a video camera almost.
Yeah.
Wow, what a beautiful
view.
So we're about to see the river. We're about to kill the river. So there we go. This is the river that we were talking about.
Never got to do at the range is shoot a lot of shots in succession.
Hey, do it, man. All right, so you got it's on safety. Danny's gonna kill the river. All right, just keep shooting.
The clip came out.
River's dead.
Sorry, river. Well, I would like to point out that he did, in fact, hit the river every single time.
Pew, 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 pew. You just never get to do that at the range.
No? Alright, so we're going back in now. Oh, the door got closed.
So we just shot the river. Killed the river. Danny killed the river.
River is officially dead.
So this podcast can officially be over.
Right, because I mean, the life of the river. That's what the delineation is. So what's the parting shots or final words of our little excursion? Robert, you go first.
Well, it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to bring people whom I respect and admire to this place of my paradise,
and me,
and like allow them to become more innately just one with their surroundings.
Wow, that's
deep.
That's deep. Danny, you got to go next because I can't go after that.
You know, I'm gonna echo it the same thing, but coming from my side, you know, I've been so grateful, man. I've told you a million times this weekend. I'm grateful for you bringing me out here, bringing both of us out here. I knew that I was like, when I got here, before we got here, actually, you told me, "What do you expect to get out of this?" You know, and I expected to connect better with nature. I expected to hopefully, you know, kill my first animal and eat it, you know. I'll hopefully do that later. But in reality, it's just, I'm just grateful for this opportunity, man, because I'm leaving a changed person. So thank you, man.
You bet, man.
I don't have nearly anything as deep as that. I mean, it was fun and all, but you guys are weird.
We are weird.
No, so my takeaway is along similar lines is we're all going to die one day. But what makes it significant is not when or how. It's what are you going to do today to make that day matter?
Yeah.
Right? So every day, do something that makes the fact that you're going to, at some point in time, end up in the ground, make it matter. You know, whatever it is, be in the moment, just make it matter.
I love it. I love it.
All right, so there you go. We're done.
Everybody knows where to find everybody.
Keto Savage. That's at Keto Savage all over the place. Keto Counterculture. That's Danny, all over the place. I'm the Brian Williamson, also Keto Evangelist. Whatever.
Boom.
What else did we miss? Did we miss anything?
Nope. Danny and I are about to go get on a deer stand, kill a deer. Brian, you're about to go hit the road.
I'm about to drive home, listening to audiobooks on the way home. So there we go.
Until next time, gents.
Peace.
Peace.